In this episode, I'm going to introduce you to a new terrain making product called Necroplex. Hey everybody, DM Jim here, and welcome to another episode of Game Terrain Engineering. In this episode, I want to introduce you to a product that just finished up a Kickstarter. It's called Necroplex, and it's got an interesting idea behind it that I'll show you shortly here. But one of the reasons I want to explain why Necroplex interested me is I have received a number of requests for Warhammer terrain. I've had some people email me and say, hey, when are you going to do some Warhammer terrain? It's a good question. I don't play Warhammer. I like it. I've watched games at my local gaming store. I certainly understand the appeal, but it's not a game that I play personally. And the number of games that I play that have a science fiction element to them, pretty thin. Right now, I've got enough games on my plate that I can't add any more. But I certainly understand that some of you Warhammer players out there are always on the lookout for terrain. I went over and I talked to some of the wargamers who were playing Warhammer. And I asked them, I said, hey, listen, if I were to make some terrain, what would you be looking for? Now, my gaming store, and this one is called Gigabytes. It's in Marietta, Georgia. Gigabytes has this long wall shelving. And on all this shelving are terrain pieces. There's fantasy, science fiction, western, you name it. There's some terrain up there. When the players come in to play a game, they can just walk up to these shelves and just sort of pick and choose what they like. Interestingly, that is one of the complaints that I received from some of the players, was that they're kind of getting bored of what's on those shelves. And I can sympathize, because there's a limited amount of space, obviously. They can't dedicate their whole store to terrain. So those shelves can only hold so much. And if you're playing on a weekly basis, after a few months, you're probably exhausting, what you can pull off that shelf. Now, I do see some players bring in their own terrain, but then they leave with it. When I was talking to them, I said, well, what kind of terrain are you looking for? And one guy in particular said something new. And I was like, well, can you elaborate? And he said, well, all the terrain we play with kind of looks the same. It has this Gothic style building, these crumbling buildings with arched windows and things like that. And he said it's fine, but he wants something new. I told him, I said, I've got what you want. I just haven't had a chance to really develop anything yet. The solution I'm going to offer to Warhammer players and science fiction game players out in general is Necroplex. Now, I'm going to put a link in the description below for the Necroplex Kickstarter. It's brand new. These guys haven't even started. They are working on a website where they'll also be selling the products. And their products are STL files. These are things you print out on a 3D printer. You do need a 3D printer or access to one. And if you don't have one, there are services that will print stuff for you. They're so new, they haven't got their website up yet. By the time you're watching this video, it's possible they may. I'm in communication with the two guys. It's a father-son. They gave me access to a lot of the pieces before the Kickstarter finished so that I could test them, print them, and try them out. And they've made improvements. I've submitted some problems I found with a piece here or there, and immediately, usually within 24 hours, they updated they had uploaded a new file with the fix. So they're well aware that they're trying to build a new product. And they want to work with the customer, people who are backing it or buying it. They're also going to be offering monthly expansions. They're going to be adding new pieces on a monthly basis. When you see how this works, you'll totally understand how there is no limit to what they can do. They can just keep making new pieces, new shapes, new sizes. There's a whole lot they can do with this product, and that translates to us, the user, as to what we can do with it. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you some very simple things that I've made so far with it. And I say so far because the Kickstarter just ended, and there are a number of sets or collections of files that they are going to be releasing over the next few weeks or months. I've only got the first one, which is called the City Pack, I think. The City Pack has a lot of pieces, plenty to develop something. The pieces I'm looking forward to, or the pack I'm looking forward to, are the pieces that will allow you to take dowels and PVC pipe and push them into these plastic printed pieces, and they'll make things like walkways and industrial pipes and stuff like that. Right now what I've got is struts and staircase, things to make stairs and things to make walls and stuff like that, which is fine. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be labeling this video as a part 1 video, because I do plan on coming back and revisiting this product pretty soon, based on what I'm hearing about the next set of Necroplex parts coming out. There's obviously a time issue. These things don't, they don't print fast. For example, there are 6 struts that I print at a time, and they take about 4 hours. I mean, they're big, and I don't print one at a time. I've batched them together, and I print 6 at a time of that particular piece. When I get these new batches of pieces, there's going to be some printing time involved, so that could push this out, part 2, out a few weeks. But I have to tell you, I am absolutely blown away by the Necroplex product, as you'll see in some of my examples coming up here. Again, look at the description below, and I'll put a link to the Kickstarter so you can at least view the video and see the parts. One of the things they just released this week, all of these files, these STL files, there are a lot of them. I'm guessing maybe 75 to 100 right now that are out there. A lot of them look the same. They may have a different length. There may be like a 3-hole, 4-hole, 6-hole. These files start looking the same, and the file names are very similar. And so I asked them, I said, hey, would you create some sort of database where you had a picture of the object and then the file name? And they did. They created it. They just uploaded it, and I'm going to print them out and hang them on my wall, because I can totally see making more of this stuff. As a matter of fact, I plan on making a large diorama and donating it to Gigabytes for their players to use. But anyway, enough talk. Let's get to the table and let me show you what these parts consist of and how they work with things like foam core, PVC, dowels, and that kind of thing. And I'll show you some very basic structures that I've started building, and I'm working towards something that's going to be table size. It's going to be massive. First up, I'm going to show you what the parts look like and show you how some of them work. If you've been watching any of my previous episodes previous to this one, you may have heard my 3D printer going crazy over in the corner here. That's because for about the last 2 weeks, I have just been a printing maniac. I have had that printer going constantly, even at night while I sleep. Also, I could print pieces. This is not everything. I've got 20 or 30 pieces over on a table over here, maybe more than that are different. But what I want to do is I want to show you what I've got here. For example, this right here, this is a strut, okay? It's meant to stand straight and form the legs of like maybe a raised platform. You'll see that here's the feet, and you'll see these C-clamps. See that right there? This will come into play in just a moment. So here is a strut, and let me see, what else do I have in here? I have about maybe a dozen or more of these. I'm just going to pull them out here. And I have more than that, I guess. I printed a lot of the struts. I figured I'd need a lot of struts. This piece right here looks unusual, but this forms a staircase, and you don't need 2 of them. You just need 1. The stairs are going to slot into these C-clamps right here, and I'll show you how you make the stairs for this. It's got a big base right here, so it sits, like this, and connects to, a wall or what have you, and then you put the stairs in here. So I've got a bunch of these. I know I've got more. And you may notice that they're in different colors. I don't care about that, because after I get this thing designed, I'm going to prime it with one base color so everything will look the same. So I've got a bunch of stairs. These right here are called detail pieces. Now, Necroplex shows a bunch of different sizes. This is what they call the 1x1. And you can see here's, they have really nice science fiction-y looking details. Here's a fan. Here's some pipes or circuits. Let's see, what else do we have? Yeah, here's the circuits. There's about 5 or 6 variety of these, and then of course there are bigger detail pieces. There's a 2x1, and I believe there's a 4x1, and I think there are plans to make even bigger ones. These are called detail pieces because these aren't meant to click in anywhere. They're meant to sort of be glued on things just to add a little bit of detail. I've printed up a ton of these as well in different colors. All right, let me get all these out. All right, up next, instead of showing that, let me do this. All right, this is a standard 6-hole edge. You'll notice that it kind of looks like a Lego piece. It's got a flat edge here and a flat edge here. I printed up a ton of these, mainly because these are definitely one of the major building blocks of terrain using the Necroplex system. And if you'll notice, there's a groove in here of about 5 millimeters. This is where a piece of foam core will slot in. So for instance, if you want to make a catwalk or a walkway, you could take these two pieces, cut a piece, maybe 2 inches wide, sandwich these on the end, and you would have an instant catwalk made. The catwalk would actually be made of foam core for the walking, and the plastic pieces would hold it all together. And of course, you can see if you just keep these going, you can make the walkway as long as you like. These are also useful for building walls. If you wanted to build, a tower, for example, these can be used to sandwich the sides of the building. And because they're a specific length, these come in 6-hole, 4-hole, 3-hole, 2-hole, and I think 2-hole's the smallest it goes. There may be a 1-hole. Again, these guys are making up new pieces all the time. So by the time you watch this, anything I say on here may be out of date. But these pieces are really, really nice. And let me show you real quick a piece of foam core. All right, so here's a piece of standard foam core. You don't have to take the paper off. As a matter of fact, you're not supposed to. It fits nice and snug. Look at that. It's not sliding at all. This would be a really wide walkway. But, let's say you wanted to make a landing pad. Well, there you go. If I cut this to a square, I could put one on each side, like this, like this, like this, and I'd have a nice little landing pad there. Again, also, one other thing I wanted to show you, the detail pieces I mentioned, these are meant to be sort of, glued on the foam core at various places just to give variety. You could do something like that, and it would just be obstacles for your miniatures to move around. But they're also designed in such a way that they do have recesses, but they're meant for a miniature to actually be able to stand on them without tipping over. Let's see, like that. They're flat, the same flatness, so you don't have to worry about that. And I just bent the sword, darn it. All right, so that's how these edge pieces work right here. Now, the next thing I want to show you is, let's build a catwalk. So I take 2 struts, right? And you remember the seat clamps. These seat clamps are meant to slide. If you look here real carefully, they slide in like that. Now they're loose. And the reason for that is if you paint these, the paint adds just enough thickness for them to be tight. But I have since found a different way to do this. If you want to prototype this, it's kind of a little wiggly and loose, and you might not like that because it might fall apart. But what I have found is if you take a piece of paper, like stickers, and you cut little squares, and you just put a sticker right on top of the clamp, when you slide this all over, the thickness of the sticker sheet is just thick enough that it holds it, just tight enough that it won't fall apart. But anyway, let me get back to this. Let me show you. So we're going to build a raised walkway. So there's one half of it. I'm going to put another one over here. Okay, like this. All right, there's, and granted, it's not the strongest, but you can see that if I insert this into here, and this into here, come on, there we go. Look at that, it's standing. Very simple. Now, if I were to want to glue something like this together to make a standing catwalk, I would have to design the walls, and I would have to put glue, and I'm really simplifying things here, but by 3D printing these pieces and just using foam core, I can create very quick 3-dimensional structures, ramps, buildings, bunkers, those kind of things. And as you saw, everything just sort of snaps together. Now, if you want to make it more permanent, obviously you would put glue here. Let me show you a few other things. All right, here's a ladder. Okay, instead of a strut holding it, you could do the ladder. And even though it's small enough, I don't think you'd want to put your minis on here. They would sort of hang. I'm going to destroy this mini in a minute. They could stick on there maybe if you inserted them a certain way. But I think distance-wise, you would just assume that they climbed it at a certain movement rate. But you can see that they're almost identical. It's just you've got a ladder and a strut. So I've printed a handful of ladders, maybe 4 or 5, because I don't see putting a lot of those out. me show you what else I've got here. So this is interesting. These are called clamps, and there are about, right now, I've seen about 7 or 8 different types of clamps, and I know they're making more. This one is fixed. You can see that it doesn't bend. It is meant to clamp onto an edge piece. And remember, these edge pieces come in different lengths. I'm just using the 6 one here, the 6-hole one, as an example. But it's meant to clamp on, and as you can see, this clamp is a little thinner than this one. And the reason for that is it's meant to hold other objects. Hang on one second. I knew I was going to forget something. All right. So these 2 pieces are printed as a set. This is a shield wall. Basically, you print them out, you glue them together like this, okay? And let's say this is one side of our catwalk. You put this on here like this, and then the shield wall inserts down in here. And I'm only putting one on, but you can see there's spaces for 3 clamps if you want real strength. There's the piece inserted on the clamp, right? It just breaks line of sight. So if you had a miniature hiding behind here or partially exposed, this would be a wall that would block line of sight and prevent an attack. But there are other things similar to these walls that are meant to go in these clamps. Now, let's say you want to, one of the things I thought was really interesting, they printed these ground-based shields. So you can see there's 3 of them. This is where you would insert this like this. You could move these around and provide shields. These are meant to be resting on the ground or, you know, on a platform or something like that. They're just little three tripod stands. I printed up a couple of those. And like I said, these clamps are really, I print these 30 at a time. They take about 6 hours or so to print, maybe 30 or 40 of them. I just let it go. And I've just got a ton of the clamps. This isn't all I have because I know that the clamps are going to be something. The clamps are also useful. Let me show you another clamp. Hold on just one second. All right, here's some other clamps right here. This one actually, when you print it and pull it off the work table, it actually rotates. You don't have to snap it together. It's printed like that. So you could see that you could take 2 pieces, put them together, and you could make them 90 degrees to each other, or they could be movable like a gate. This piece right here bumps up against that. So you could create a gate system just like that. These 2 pieces right here are interesting. They have a hole and a flat piece and a clamp. And what these, it took me a while to figure out how these can be used, but they can be used to make maybe like a hatch that you need to be open or closed. And the way it works is you need a special piece that looks like this. See how it has the round pieces on the end? You take those and you insert them like so, like that. And then, like for instance, you would put this on the side of a piece, the side of a catwalk. Okay, so watch. I'm just going to push those on like this. This folds up, okay? And when it drops down, it stops with these legs right here, and it becomes either a wall, or you could use it as a step. Maybe this is how people would exit and get on the staircase. This stuff, the team that's designing this, they keep releasing updates and new ideas, and I can just see in a year that the sheer volume of pieces that they offer is going to be huge. And they also are very open to suggestions. There's a certain backer level that is going to have access to a forum. Apparently, we're going to be able to make requests or make suggestions for future pieces and things like that. So I'm looking forward to that. This piece was also designed, again, right here, to be glued on the back if you want some detail instead of just having this flat 3D printed surface. They make these pieces to be glued over to give additional detail. So that's not all I have. One more thing I want to show you. All right, last bit I want to show you here. I mentioned that this is a 6-hole edge right here. You'll notice the ends are flat. These are really good for long runs, but what if you want to have an enclosed catwalk or maybe a landing platform? You may not want this ugly looking butt joint right here, or maybe you don't like that. So what they've done is they've created these pieces with a 45-degree angle. So for example, here's a 4-hole, here is a 1-hole. I could put a piece of foam in here, put that there, take another 4, put it there, and another 1, put it on the end like that, and I would have an enclosed piece, a platform or a step or whatever you want to call it, that would have a foam core in the center here, and it would be framed with these pieces. They make these pieces in both the 45-degree variety. They also make them in what they call, they have a name for it. It's even on one, so it's flat on one and 45 on the other. And they do that because, for example, let's say you want to make a really long run. Well, you could use the 6 pieces to make a really long run, and then maybe you don't want to add another 6 piece. You just want a little short piece. What you would do is get a 1 hole that's flat on one side and 45 on the other, and it would go against it like that. Let's say you wanted to have something that was 14 holes. Well, there's 12. You only need something that's 2. You would print out the one like this that is flat on this end and 45 on that, and you would put it, right like that up against it. Okay? All right, enough with that. Let me actually show you how I'm going to start building a diorama with all of this. First thing I'm going to do is show you how easy it is to create a very simple little platform. This is a 4-hole piece. If you look at my pad here, it's 4 inches long. This 2-hole piece right here is 2.5 inches. So all I need to do is cut a 4-inch by 2.5-inch rectangle and frame it with these 4 pieces. So I'm just going to take my blade here. I'm going to come in 2.5 inches, which should be right 1, 2.5. Okay, I'm going to cut 4 inches. Have way too much on my desk here. All right, here we go. Put it right there. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can't see, I'm lining the yellow line up with the edge of my ruler here. Okay, so there we go. All right, let's see if this worked. Push this on. So let's come into this side. There's 1. Okay. 2. Okay, where's the other piece? There it is. All right. 3. Now you can see it's not meeting up exact, and that's just my own measurements because these are pretty exact. So what I'm going to do is trim this edge just a little bit. And where I can trim it is right there. It's pretty easy to eyeball it and just see that it's about 1/16 of an inch too wide. There we go. Put it on there like that. And then the last piece goes on like this. As you can see, I've miscalculated it a little bit, no big deal. So all I've got to do is trim that down a little bit. There we go. Took about, what, 2 minutes? And probably could have done it quicker if I'd have been a little more accurate with my cutting. But there we go. A platform made from foam core and 4 plastic pieces. Here's something I just made using 4 pieces. 2 of them are the 2-hole and 2 are the 1-hole, and these are the ones with the 45-degree angles. As you can see, I've cut a small piece of foam board to insert in there, and I basically did this 5 times. Got 5 of these. Okay, now here is the step. Here's the base of the steps, and basically it's real simple. You just slot these in like this, and the Necroplex Facebook site just posted a set of instructions, and they actually show this being done with two of the steps, and I'll show you that in just a second. So here's a step, and it sits flat. There it is. Boom, 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 right up the thing. They're a little angled. That's because I haven't glued them in, but when they're glued in, they will be perfectly horizontal with respect to the ground. They're just sort of dropped a little bit because they're not glued in. You can kind of see how loose they are here. But like I said, the instructions they showed on the Facebook page had 2 of them. And what they did there was they used a long piece. Instead of this 2-hole, they used, I believe, a 4-hole. Let me see if I've got one of those. Well, 2, do I have a 4? They're over there. Here's a 6. So basically, they just made these very large steps, which would work. One slotted in here and one slotted in there, and you can kind of see how they would go. That's fine, but really you only need one. You could use 2 of these to hold them. You would just have to do, this right here, like that, and slot them in again. Let's see. I guess it's probably easier to start from the bottom. That would have been a smart thing to do. So let's do that. So 1, 2, 1, 2, and there, and there. And I'm not sure why that won't, why is that top heavy? That's odd. I guess it's because there's 2 of them. That makes sense. So this one would have to be inserted, like this onto a walkway. You would insert the other side of the clamps into a catwalk. I guess I could have done this one. Let me do this one real quick. So like that, and then of course I could put struts to hold it up like that. There we go. So I've got a very simple little set of stairs and a flat piece to walk on. If this was not stable enough for you, it's real easy just to put more struts on there and over here. But I imagine, just based on my experience with playing with these, I imagine that the bigger the structure you get, you start getting stability, just because there's plenty of struts and staircases and ladders and things holding it. So it's a little rattly, but that's because, again, nothing's been glued together. Once everything's glued together, it should be much more stable. But that was pretty slick. Let me tell you this. I made one of these, just cutting a piece of foam core about that size, took all of 30 seconds. I made 5 of them, and then I surrounded them with these pieces. Now, I know what you're asking. You're saying, yeah, but what about the print time of these? That is large. I mean, if you print one of these, it only takes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, something like that. But I print these in bulk. So I was printing, I believe, 18 of these and 18 of these at a time on the same print plate. And it would take about 6 hours. I'll include in the description below some of the times that I've encountered when printing things. For example, the 6-hole pieces like this one right here, I print these 6 at a time. I'm actually thinking of bumping that up to maybe doing 20 or 30 at a time. But 6 at a time, I think it takes about a little less than 3 hours, which sounds like a lot. And I guess it is. It depends on the speed of your 3D printer. But I'm printing 6 of these, and they're each a centimeter tall, and I'm not sure 4 inches wide. So your print times may vary. But again, I do a lot of the printing at night while I'm sleeping, and so I wake up in the morning and I've got a handful of these. So I'm probably going to bump these up to maybe 20 or 30 at a time. And but as you can see, it's just cutting. Once you've printed out the pieces, it's just cutting the foam core to make the stairs and the structures. Now, I don't have the pieces with me, but there are going to be other pieces, part of the Necroplex collection, that are going to be where you insert dowels and PVC. And it gives it a sort of an industrial, just a grimy, grungy look. I don't have any of those pieces. When I get them, I will probably do a follow-up video to this and show you that. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to time-lapse the rest of this build, and I'm going to just start putting things together and try to grow this into a larger structure. I may go 2 levels, may even go 3 levels high. I haven't decided yet. But I'm gonna time lapse it so that you can watch me build and experiment and see what I can come up with. But first, before I do that, I gotta clean some space off. What you're looking at here is something I made in, I'm not kidding, less than about 15 minutes of assembly. Now, I'm not counting the time it took to print all the plastic parts. I'm really talking about just cutting the foam core, slipping it inside the Necroplex pieces, and then, assembling it into a structure here. What I've got is a set of 5 steps to a platform. I've got a raised catwalk here. You can see the struts here holding them in place. These two right here to go for a second level that I'm starting. And again, they're a little loose, but everything will tighten up once I start putting things together. These are the shield walls, as you can see, and these are the detail pieces. Remember I told you, here's a close-up of one right there. That one's like pipes. Here is a fan, or like that. So these are just pieces that you can print and glue onto the foam core, just to give it a little more something nicer to look at than just flat. Of course, you can also just leave the foam core flat. Now, one of the nice things that the Necroplex guys did, hold on just one second. See this? This is called embroidery mesh. I forget. There's a whole bunch of names for it. It's just a let me show you. It's just a plastic with holes. And one of the things you can do with this is cut it and then glue it on here, and it gives it, you can see it gives it more of an industrial look. I'll be doing that in part 2 of this video. Now in part 2 of this video, I'm going to go much bigger than this. This is just a single ramp up with some platforms. And again, it took me less than 20 minutes. I think it was closer to 15 minutes. And I haven't painted them yet, and I haven't added the mesh to it. But I'm going to go bigger. I'm going to go with second level. I'm going to expand this out. And I believe next week, the Necroplex team is going to release what they call the Foundry Pack. That was it, Foundry Pack. And it's going to include a bunch of industrial pieces like, boilers and heavy equipment. And some of those you have holes in them where you insert dowels. And I think that's going to add even more to making this look great. So I hope you like what you see here. Again, this did not take a super amount of time. Obviously, printing out the plastic takes the longest time, and you want to do that in batches. You can print overnight if you have a 3D printer. One of the nice things about Necroplex is one of the backer levels was, I think they sold 15 licenses to resell people who could buy a seller's license. You can print out the 3D pieces like this, bag them up, and sell them to customers. I bought one of those licenses, not really 100% certain if that's what I want to do. I wanted to support Necroplex, so I paid the extra fee. But it's not a bad idea for, if you have a 3D printer and you want to monetize it, or at least earn back the money it costs you to buy it. I may seriously consider just printing these out in bags and selling them. Let me know in the comments if that's something you're interested in. I think they sold about 9 or so of those licenses. So there'll be a lot more people other than me that can sell these. And the other thing you can sell is you can sell actually assembled terrain. I could take that right there, glue it together, and sell it according to the license, or I could print out all the pieces required to make that, and then put it in a bag and sell it as a do-it-yourself kit. So again, let me know if that's something you're interested in. I haven't really given it serious thought, but something I would consider doing if people liked this Necroplex stuff and wanted it but did not have the ability to print it themselves. Again, in the description below, I'll put links to the Kickstarter, and when they finally do get their website up, I'll try to remember to go back and add that to the description as well, where you'll be able to buy these parts. Before I forget, I never got one of these pieces off. I want to show it to you here. Where'd it go? Here it is. Just a C-clamp. These were another fun piece. You just clip them on there, real simple, and they just provide a little strength and structure. Oh, here, I have one right here. All right, well, that is the Necroplex terrain kit. Hope you like what you saw, and I look forward to reading your comments, and I will be back next week with another video. Take care.